For decades, Catherine O'Hara has felt less like a performer and more like a familiar presence in our lives, someone who slipped quietly into our living rooms and stayed there. She didn't demand attention through scandal or spectacle. She earned it through consistency, warmth, and an uncanny ability to make people feel understood. Whether she was playing an overwhelmed mother, an eccentric artist, or a woman holding herself together through chaos, her characters always carried a trace of humanity that felt unmistakably real. What made her special wasn't just her comedic timing, but her emotional honesty. She allowed audiences to laugh while still recognizing themselves in the cracks beneath the humor. That balance is rare. It's easy to be funny, harder to be meaningful, and almost impossible to be both without ego. Catherine O'Hara managed it for nearly 50 years, becoming a quiet constant in an industry obsessed with reinvention and noise. A childhood that shaped her voice. Born into a large, lively family in Toronto, Catherine learned early that humor wasn't optional, it was survival. In a household filled with siblings, attention was earned, not given, and laughter became a way to be seen. Those early years shaped her instincts long before she ever stepped onto a stage. She didn't grow up dreaming of fame. She grew up learning how to listen, observe, and respond. That skill later became the foundation of her improvisational brilliance. When she joined the legendary Second City comedy troupe, she wasn't trying to dominate the room. She blended, adapted, and elevated everyone around her. Working alongside future legends, she developed a reputation as someone who made scenes better without ever needing credit. That humility became part of her artistic DNA and set her apart in a field where volume often replaces substance. Mastering disappearance. Through character, one of Catherine O'Hara's greatest talents has always been her ability to disappear. She doesn't play characters so much as inhabit them fully, leaving no trace of herself behind. This chameleon-like quality made her invaluable in ensemble casts, where balance matters more than ego. She could be outrageous without being distracting, emotional without being indulgent. That skill reached mainstream audiences through roles that became cultural touchstones. When she appeared as a frantic yet loving mother in a holiday classic, she wasn't trying to steal scenes. She was grounding them. Her performance worked because it felt lived in, imperfect and real. Audiences didn't just laugh, they believed her. That credibility allowed her to move effortlessly between comedy and drama throughout her career, always anchored by an authenticity that couldn't be taught or manufactured. The weight of being reliable success brings expectations, and for Catherine O'Hara, reliability became both a strength and a burden. When you consistently deliver excellence, people stop asking how you're doing and start assuming you're fine. She became someone productions depended on, someone audiences trusted, someone colleagues admired for her professionalism. But reliability can quietly erase vulnerability. In an industry that rewards output over well-being, she learned to keep her private struggles private, not out of secrecy, but out of principle. She believed the work should speak louder than the person behind it. That belief kept her grounded, but it also meant carrying pressure without complaint. She showed up prepared, present and generous, even when the demands were high. That discipline earned her respect, yet it also reinforced the illusion that she was somehow immune to exhaustion or doubt. Reinvention without reinvention. While many performers chase relevance by reinventing themselves, Catherine O'Hara did something far more difficult. She stayed true. Later in her career, she delivered one of television's most iconic performances, not by changing who she was, but by refining everything she'd learned. The character was bold, theatrical, and unforgettable, yet still rooted in emotional truth. Audiences embraced it instantly, not because it was flashy, but because it was precise. The success felt like a renaissance, but for her, it was simply the result of decades of craft finally meeting the right material. Awards followed, praise intensified, and a new generation discovered her brilliance. Yet even at the height of renewed acclaim, she remained unchanged. No victory lap, no ego shift, just gratitude and continued focus on the work. Silence as a form of strength. In a culture that rewards oversharing, Catherine O'Hara chose restraint. She didn't use interviews to settle scores or narrate her pain. Her silence wasn't avoidance, it was intention. She believed some things belonged to the people living them, not the public consuming them. That choice protected her family, her friendships, and her sense of normalcy. It also set her apart in Hollywood, where personal turmoil often becomes currency. She resisted that system quietly, without protest, by refusing to participate. The result was a career largely free of scandal, but rich in respect. Colleagues often described her as kind, focused, and deeply present. The absence of noise around her life wasn't emptiness, it was boundary. And boundaries, especially in fame, are a form of self-respect. The impact beyond the screen, perhaps the most revealing measure of Catherine O'Hara's legacy, isn't found in awards or box office numbers, but in the way people speak about her when cameras aren't rolling. Former co-stars describe her as nurturing without being intrusive, supportive without being performative. Younger actors often credit her with making them feel safe, seen, and capable. She understood the responsibility that comes with experience and used it gently. Her influence extended beyond characters into real lives, shaping confidence and careers in ways that never made headlines. That kind of impact doesn't fade with trends. It lingers quietly, carried forward by those she helped along the way. In an industry built on hierarchy, she practiced generosity. In a profession driven by competition, she chose collaboration. A heart wired differently. There's a poetic detail about Catherine O'Hara that feels almost symbolic. She was born with a rare anatomical condition in which her internal organs are mirrored, including a heart positioned on the opposite side. While it never defined her publicly, it's hard not to see metaphor in it. She approached life and art from a different angle, seeing humor where others saw chaos, finding warmth in absurdity. In an industry that can feel cold and transactional, she led with empathy. Her performances weren't loud declarations, they were carefully tuned emotional instruments. She didn't demand attention, she earned trust. Perhaps her heart, being wired differently, was never a limitation at all, but a quiet reminder that uniqueness often hides in places no one thinks to look. What her legacy asks of us, Catherine O'Hara's story invites reflection, not mourning. It asks us to reconsider how we engage with the people who bring us joy, to recognize that consistency doesn't mean invincibility, and silence doesn't mean ease. She gave audiences laughter, comfort, and familiarity across generations, often without asking anything in return. The least we can do is honor that gift by paying closer attention to the humans behind the performances we love. Her work remains endlessly rewatchable, endlessly generous, and through it, her voice continues to speak, reminding us that kindness doesn't need volume, excellence doesn't need explanation, and true impact rarely announces itself. Catherine O'Hara didn't just entertain us. She modeled a quieter, deeper way of being exceptional.